Hi, this is Ivan and welcome to the True Potential YouTube channel. At True Potential, we have ongoing conversations that lead to self-awareness and practical next steps that will focus and empower you to make real progress in your life and leadership. In this video, we are continuing our series on managing stress. If you haven't watched our previous videos, I would really encourage you to do so after this video. One sure way that we can manage the stress in our lives is by cultivating gratitude in our lives. One of the great benefits of gratitude is that it lifts our eyes from the challenges that we face so that we can see what is good and what is working in our lives. This helps us to notice that all is not lost and that even despite the most dire situations that we can make steps forward and that we can continue to see the hope that tomorrow will be better than today. And one great thing about gratitude is that it doesn't only improve our mood, but it also has effects on our physical bodies. Some physiological benefits include the lower stress hormones, it calms our nervous systems, improves our sleep quality, and supports our heart health. Now, I think that all of us would agree that being thankful is healthy and helpful. But to actually do that during challenging times is much easier said than done. That is why we want to cultivate a habit of being thankful so that when we approach those challenging times, that we already have those healthy habits in our lives. And when all else fails, we need people in our lives that can continually point us to the good and the beautiful in life so that we can continue to notice what is wonderful and what is good in our lives. Now, it's important to remember that when we are facing challenging situations, our mood many times are feeling frustrated, we feel maybe overwhelmed or a little bit depressed. And to acknowledge then what is good makes us feel like we are being hypocrites. To overcome this in our hearts, I want to point you to what I call end off in hope. What do I mean by this? What do? We encourage people to first acknowledge the emotion that you're feeling and then end off in what is hopeful and what is good in our lives. An example of this would be if you're feeling frustrated and you're feeling overwhelmed, acknowledge that. I feel frustrated, I feel overwhelmed, and I'm angry at the situation. But then end off in, but despite all of that, I'm still thankful that I have loved ones in my life that care for me. That is what I mean by ending off in hope. We acknowledge the feelings that we are feeling, but then we end off in hope. So friends, how do we cultivate practically a habit of being thankful in our lives? Well, the first one that I want to focus on is building monuments. Now, I got this from the Bible where God continually encourages Israel to build a monument, to remember, but also to communicate to future generations what God has done in that specific moment. Now, this can be done in our modern day lives by not building a stone pillar necessary, but just taking note and making notice of what is good, something that has happened in our lives. Maybe it was just even as simple as having a great day at work or a great day with a challenging family member. Just by acknowledging that we had a great time, that we had a good day, that we've made a step forward, that we've achieved something, or whatever the case may be, that builds in our hearts those monuments of remembrance, which is so important as we continue to look to what is good in times of challenge. We can refer to the evidence, the monuments that yes, there are good as well in our lives. And so that is the first one, build monuments. The second one is start your day off with gratitude. I like this habit and I've cultivated it in my own life where every day I would start my day off with listing at least 3 things that I am grateful for. This is so powerful, friends. When you start to list off the things that you are thankful for, many times I don't just end with 3, but I continue on with other things that I've noticed that is good and that is beautiful in my life. This helps us again to just acknowledge that all is not lost, that everything is not dire and dark in our lives, but there are rays of sunshine, that there are good in our lives. So the next one is to continue to start our days with gratitude. The third one I wanted to focus on is gamify gratitude. I started playing this game a while ago by reading a book that spoke about gamifying our lives, and I find it really fun and challenging as well. What you do is very simply, every time during your day that you notice something that works, something that went your way, something where you felt gratitude in your heart, just make a note on your phone, on a digital note, that you were thankful for, and then you just list it very briefly. And then you go on with your day. At the end of your day, you come back to your list and you actually count the amount of times that you experience gratitude during your day. And then you actually give yourself a score. The next day, you try to beat your top score of the previous day. What this does is it helps us to continually look for things that we can be thankful for, which is so powerful as we continue to build and cultivate those habits of being thankful. So in conclusion, just a couple of ways that we can continue to build that habits of being thankful. The first and the big thing that I mentioned is remember that we need to acknowledge the emotions that we are in. Whether that's frustration or whatever the case may be, but then we end off in hope. And then the 3 practical ways that I've mentioned. The first one is build those monuments in our hearts. Acknowledge the good when they do happen to us. And then the second one is start with gratitude during our days. The first thing that we want to do in our day is list at least 3 things that we can be thankful for. And then the third way that I mentioned is play that game of gratitude in your life. And that you do by listing just out things on a digital note of that you're grateful for, and then the next day trying to beat that top score that you previously accumulated. So friends, I believe that gratitude can really be a game changer in your life. And I want to encourage you to start cultivating these habits of being thankful in our lives and acknowledging what is good and what God has blessed us with. It can really change your focus and change the way that we go through stress by managing our focus and our reflection as well. If this has been helpful to you, I really want to encourage you to share it with your friends and your loved ones so that they can also benefit from that. And remember to like and subscribe to this channel so that we can also reach a wider audience as well. Thank you. Have a great day.